Grid 2 wasn't great. I said as much in my review of the game back in May of last year. There's plenty to like about the shiny graphics and the drama of the racing, but structurally it was an even bigger car crash than all of those actual car crashes that were happening. Well, Codys are back and they're terribly sorry. GRID Autosport is a new game that attempts to right all the wrongs that made fans of the original Grid so grumpy, and also brings content from both games together, making this a sort of Grid greatest hits to boot. So without further waffle from me, here are 6 reasons GRID Autosport is going to fix Grid 2. You might argue that not many people care about motorsport. Well, I would counter that by saying even fewer people care about pretend motorsport. Watching a bunch of stickered up saloon cars clattering around downtown Chicago is fun, but it doesn't feel particularly authentic. That's why GRID Autosport is returning the focus to its roots in proper circuit racing. While there aren't any real championships licensed, there is much more in the way of race spec machinery in real circuits, which is good because race cars tend to drive better than your average softly sprung repmobile anyway. This is the big one that people were loudly asking for in comment threads across the internet, a cockpit view. In spite of the fact only a minuscule percentage of players actually play with it, those players are the hardcore who've been with the series since the very start, and they were pissed when Grid 2 didn't have one. Cockpit view is in there now. It's something of a compromise in that there's only a limited amount of screen real estate given up to the cockpit. Crucially though, it adds to that sense of immersion and blurs at high speed to simulate the tunnel vision you get when you're racing hard. And besides, do you really want to spend your time staring into the passenger footwell anyway? I'm fully aware that some of you do want to do that. I mean, there's often a nice red fire extinguisher in there. But you have to admit, it is better than nothing, yeah? Grid 2's handling was not what you'd call simulation, unless what you were simulating was having rear tyres made of soap, in which case it's the most realistic video game ever created by mankind. Grid Autosport won't be like driving a spreadsheet either, but it does can the slippy slidey arcade handling in favour of something a little more grippy. Fun as drifting around is, it's not the fastest way around the track. If you want to pretend you're a racing driver, you don't really want the rear end of the car making a bid for freedom around every single corner. Of course, you'll still be able to kick the back out if you're really trying, but a bit like a good Saw movie, it'll be all the more exciting for its rarity. One of the ways GRID Autosport will reintroduce more traditional race drivery stuff into the game is to borrow some of the best bits from the original Grid game. That means unpronounceable tracks like Harama are back, with enough spit and polish to bring them up to the graphical standard of the rest of the game. That's not to say street racing is swept under the carpet. The San Francisco course from Grid makes a welcome return as well, with a similar lick of paint. Don't get me wrong, the Bugatti Veyron in Grid 2 was plenty terrifying in a straight line, but it had to slow down substantially to get its 2-ton curb weight around anything more severe than a high-speed kink. GRID Autosport introduces more in the way of purpose-built racing cars to the list of GT3 machinery from the previous game. That means Wings and Slick's F3 cars and LMP2 Le Mans prototypes, both of which corner like those fast-forward bits from Knight Rider. Ultimately, that means quicker lap times, browner trousers, and a greater challenge for experienced racing game fans. My biggest criticism of Grid 2 was how badly structured it was. It had a healthy selection of cars and tracks, but spread them so thinly it felt like a much smaller game. GRID Autosport is laid out much more like the original Grid, with you building a team, hiring a teammate, and working your way through 5 different disciplines, including open wheel, street, and even a series of abridged endurance races with tyre wear to manage. Oh, and for series veterans, GRID Autosport sees the return of fictional motorsports equivalent to House Lannister, the Ravenwest team. It's going to be enormously satisfying spraying victory champagne into their smug, stupid faces. So there you go, 6 reasons I reckon GRID Autosport will fix the problems of Grid 2. But are you convinced this is a return to form for the series? Let us know in the comments and like and subscribe for more from Outside Xbox. See you next time.